Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
It's Friday night, and you know what that means. It's Paranormal Review Radio night with your host from New York City, Anthony Agati.
And me, Lucy Liebfried from Chicago.
The one and only show that gives you the information you crave on all things paranormal. No bull, no fakes, and no guessing, just the facts. But the show wouldn't be what it was or is without you, the listeners. You all demand to hear the truth, and we are here to deliver it without any commercial interruptions or lame music breaks. You can get that on FM radio and other internet stations, not on our show and not on your time. This is truly your free radio.
That's right, Anthony. Boy, do we have a great show for you tonight. Our phone lines are open, so give us a call. Our show number is 661-244-9831. We definitely want you to call in tonight. The phone lines are open for the entire show, so join the conversation. And if you don't feel like calling in, our chat room is open, so post your comments, questions, or feel free to discuss with other members. Don't forget, we have a Facebook page, Paranormal Review Radio. Stop by and listen to learn more about tonight's show. Anthony, what are we discussing tonight?
Thanks, Lucy. Tonight we're going to go deep into the covens of the most misunderstood religion in the world and expose the truth about witchcraft, Wicca, and paganism. Lucy and I will try to answer and set the record straight on some of the questions that haunt most of us when we hear the term witch. Questions like, are Wicca and witchcraft the same thing? What exactly is Wicca, witchcraft, and paganism? If I become a witch, will I be able to do all the cool stuff you see in the movies and on TV? Is Wicca a cult? Is witchcraft a religion? How do I become a witch? Is there really a Wiccan Bible? Who do witches worship? Do witches worship the devil? Why do witches use a satanic symbol if they don't worship Satan? Do witches practice black magic and sacrifice animals? Do all witches practice their religion in the same way? Do witches cast spells? Are witches only women? How do witches view death? How do witches view Christianity? And can I follow the path of Wicca and witchcraft and be a Christian too? There are so many myths and questions to cover. Lucy, why don't you start us off with a little history about witchcraft?
Sure. Okay, so witchcraft originated with the human civilization itself, the fear of the unknown, and its imagined role in making our day-to-day life easy or difficult created witches and their craft. Even though witchcraft was, as such, practiced by mainly experienced and old women, men also practiced it. Witches were the mediators between the human beings and the mysterious superpowers such as spirits and angels. When a witch succeeded in resolving the apparently mysterious problem of someone, the performance was termed as magic, a process that could not be easily explained away through any logical analysis. The witches prayed to higher powers or the spirits for help and guidance in resolving the problem by performing certain rituals, and the whole process was called witchcraft. Witchcraft, an earth-based religion, was practiced in almost all the societies and cultures across the world, according to local beliefs and traditions. According to the scholars of witchcraft, it was a belief system whose origin predates the majority of well-known religions on this earth. It dates back 40,000 years, back to the Paleolithic period, and it has been evolving since then, and its present form is quite different from what it was 1,000 or 5,000 years back. It did not probably have this name as well. Even different covens perform witchcraft differently. Archaeological discoveries have revealed that people worshipped hunter gods and fertility goddess during the Paleolithic period. This has been proven by the discovery of cave paintings, which are estimated to be about 30,000 years old. Now, there is a painting that depicts a man with the head of a stag, and yet another painting, there is a pregnant woman standing in a circle with 11 other people. These relics go to prove that witchcraft is one of the oldest religions in the world. Wiccan view of God and Goddess aspect of the supreme creative force predates thousands of years before Christianity. In ancient times, witchcraft was known as the craft of the wise, as the wise persons were those who followed the path of nature and were in tune with its forces, had the knowledge of herbs and medicine, gave wise counsel, and were held in high esteem as shamanic healers in the village and community. They understood that nature was superior to human beings and that human beings were simply one of the many parts of nature, both seen and unseen, that combined to form one whole. As Chief Seattle said, "We do not own the earth, we are part of it." They understood that what we take from nature or used, we must return in kind to maintain the balance and equilibrium. Thus, modern man has, however, forgotten this and has paid the price in a form of many ecological and environmental disasters. Infused with mystery, fear, unbelievable and grim facts and records, witchcraft history can be traced back to centuries. The word witchcraft has been derived from the word Wicca, which means the wise one. Witchcraft has been seen as a magical phenomenon, a pagan worship or religion, sorcery, and others at different periods in witchcraft history. The earliest records of the concept and practice of witchcraft can be traced to the early days of humankind, when witchcraft was seen as a magical phenomenon that was invoked for magical rites which ensured good luck, protection against diseases, and other reasons. However, it wasn't until 1000 AD that the practice of witchcraft and witches invoked the wrath of priests, Christianity, and members of society. Witchcraft, seen as a religion of the ancient and traditional pagan religion, which worships the feminine, earthly, and masculine aspects of God, was considered as anti-Christian and a heresy. Held to be against the declarations and belief of the church, witches were considered as evil, making pacts and connections with the devil. It was even believed that witches engaged in practices such as flying, invisibility, killing, taming black wolves and cats to spy on people and others. The belief of the existence of witches was strengthened, particularly after Pope Innocent VIII issued a declaration in 1498 confirming their existence in society, and the Inquisition increased, although in 1200, killing of witches had already become authorized by Pope Gregory IX. The Inquisition thus began after 1200 on orders of the Church to discover the witches or heretics who were believed to be evil and against the Church. Full-fledged killing of witches was, however, recorded in the 1500s and the 1600s. The first crusade against witches was held in 1022 AD, when a witch was burned to death. Witchcraft history echoes the terrible campaign against witchcraft in Salem in 1692, in which 150 people were tried as suspects of practicing witchcraft. We're going to talk more about the Salem witch trials a little bit later on. Now, people suspected as witches were usually burned at stakes, and those pleading their innocence were either stoned to death or even sometimes thrown in water to prove their innocence. Witches usually face severe and painful deaths as punishments. A combination of good as well as evil views. Witchcraft history is thus a stock of shocking yet hypnotizing incidents of humankind and their crusade against the practice of witchcraft.
All right, so what is the difference between witchcraft and Wicca? Witchcraft may be literally interpreted as the wisdom, art, sum of procedures, tools, or customs followed by witches to fulfill their objectives. It, however, must be clearly understood that a witch is certainly not an ugly, wicked, detestable, diabolical, and manipulative old hag, or probably some of them are, out to harm anyone and everyone with her craft. A witch is exactly the opposite of this. A witch is a deeply religious person, altruistic healer, a teacher, a seeker, a giver, and a protector of all things. Therefore, witchcraft was known as the art or craft of the wise in the olden times, as Lucy was just talking about. And a wise person in the olden, or even in the modern times, is one who has the knowledge, the craft, or wisdom to live a life in perfect harmony with nature and its elements and make use of their multifarious bounties. The major elements of nature are the Mother Earth, the air, the sun, the moon, sky, water, and fire. Witchcraft is essentially a system of religious belief that human beings are an integral part of all pervasive nature, whether visible or invisible, and not separate from it. They are neither masters of nature nor superior to it. Witchcraft involves maintaining a state of equilibrium in nature. We receive from nature what we give to it. As a natural corollary, we must contribute to nature what we wish to receive from it in return to our contribution. In a way, witchcraft is based on the theory of karma. It must be understood that Wicca, paganism, and witchcraft are clearly spiritual belief systems and a way of life. Believers in witchcraft generally work in covens, and each coven develops its own system of worship, rituals, and practice in witchcraft based on the experience and beliefs of the members. You can practice witchcraft on your own without joining any coven. Even covens are not large gatherings. Sometimes a coven exceeding a membership of 13 is considered too large and is further split into smaller groups or hives. This freedom obviously allows each individual to practice the witchcraft in his own way without subscribing to any rigid dogma or regimen. There is no place for Satan or devil in witchcraft. The main tenets of witchcraft are freedom and responsibility. You are free to act, but must be responsible for the consequences of your actions. Witchcraft in its true form is never coercive, regimental, or unduly demanding of anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. The religion of Wicca is the worshiping of nature and the belief that all creations are sacred. It also a worship of both male and female deity and believed that the world and everything in it was created by both a male god and a female goddess. The people who believed in this faith are called witches and Salem witches. This belief is neither black nor white because it is a religion which respects nature in any forms. There are certain spells that are learned and used but must adhere to the rule or its code of conduct respected by all witches and Salem witches. All spells used must also conform to the Book of Shadows, used by all as a reference guide. Spells can either conform or adopt a person's personality, and the Wiccan reed or rule is the one thing that everyone involved must respect and follow in order to have a good order in this religion. To create a spell to harm, manipulate, dominate, or control another person is very much forbidden in the world of witchcraft. The Book of Shadows serves not only as your guide, but your references for spells, rituals, tables, and correspondence, divinatory meanings, and other things that you would like to know of and use for your consumption as long as you follow the order.
Yeah, Anthony, being of Native American heritage, I couldn't go on without mentioning the Native American culture and witchcraft. Mm-hmm. Native American witchcraft was basically allied with the religious beliefs of the natives of the regions. In fact, religion and witchcraft alike, they're the same in many ways. Both the witchcraft and the religious beliefs held nature sacred. Many of their symbols and their ideas came from nature. Old religion was closer to the spirit of the Native American traditions and witchcraft. Each region of Native America had its unique kind of witchcraft, which used different kinds of amulets and charms. They had their own rituals and masks. The practitioners of witchcraft wore costumes specific to the region. They had their own carvings, totem poles, and performed ceremonies according to the area where they lived. In spite of all these regional differences, they all shared a sense of awareness and oneness with their lands, plants, and creatures of Native America. They looked to their land for providing them the raw material for their magic and witchcraft. The material included herbs, stones, feathers, and bones, besides articles for preparing the medicines, tools, and other instruments such as charms, costumes, and masks. The witches had deep faith in the power of nature and tried to maintain a sense of unity with its invisible forces. The witches and medicine men used several methods and tools to diagnose the ailments of patients, such as crystal rocks, and using their trembling hands in a state of trance. Sometimes they chanted sacred hymns while diagnosing the diseases. The shamans, usually women, served the community by performing ceremonies to cure several diseases and ward off evil influences over the weather and the harvest. Herbs used to be an important medium of curing sick persons. There is also reference to a sacred pipe, which was a very important symbol of witchcraft. Sacred pipe symbolized the medicine wheel and all the four directions in the same space. Pinches of tobacco, along with some grains, were placed in the pipe, which was also used for lamenting. Owl had a very important place in the witchcraft of those days. The owl was considered a symbol of bad luck, and an owl sent by a witch could not be killed.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by Egypt and the Egyptian culture. And in Egyptian culture, like the witchcraft of any other religion, the Egyptian witchcraft is based upon the country's tradition, myth, legend, rituals, drama, poetry, song, dance, worship, magic, and living in harmony with the earth. The practitioners of Egyptian witchcraft honor the ancient Egyptian god and goddesses, including the triple goddess of the waxing, full and waning moon, and the horned god of the sun, death, and animal life. Since moon has an important place in Egyptian witchcraft, therefore both men and women in city apartments, suburban backyards, and country glades meet on full moons and on festival occasions to raise their energy levels and harmonize themselves with the natural forces. Congregations in Egyptian witchcraft are called temples and covens, where the seekers are initiated into learning the witchcraft. The repeated patterns of changing seasons have great importance in the Egyptian witchcraft. Ritual and festivals evolved to celebrate these seasonal cycles, more especially during the sowing and harvesting seasons. Egyptian witchcraft, therefore, has an image of the Wheel of the Year with its 8 spokes, which symbolize the 4 agricultural and pastoral festivals and the 4 solar festivals commemorating seasonal solstices and equinoxes. Like the ancient pagans and witches, Egyptian witches consider the day as beginning at sundown and ending at sundown the following day. Egyptian witches hone their divinatory skills in the increasing starlight and moonlight, and as winter begins, they work with positive aspects of the dark tides. Therefore, October 31st, November Eve, is the most auspicious period for the Egyptian witches, as this, according to them, is the time when the veil that separates our world from the next is the thinnest. This period allows the dead to return to the world of living, where their kith and kin welcome and feast them. Egyptian witches perform magic at gatherings called moon celebrations, or esbats, which coincide with the phases of the moon. Witches practice healing magic, protection, retaliation, and channeling of energy to develop themselves spiritually. They create circles to work magic. The primary tool that they use to work magic is a ritual knife called a sacred blade, or a thame. The sacred blade gets charged with the energy of the owner and is used to define space, such as drawing a sacred circle where the owner's will and energy work. A bowl of water is used to symbolize the element of water and its properties, cleansing, regeneration, and emotion. Other important tools denote the elements earth, air, fire, and water. A pentacle, a pentagram traced upon a disc like a small fish, is often used to symbolize earth and its properties, stability, material wealth, and practical affairs. Alternatively, a small dish of salt or soil can be used to symbolize the earth element.
Okay, let's talk about the Elizabethan, the early 1500s to the middle 1600s, an era in England which is popularly referred to as an era of enlightenment and scientific advancement. During this period, the printing machine was invented, and therefore knowledge spread like never before. It was also at this time that there was a massive occurrence of plagues that threatened to wipe out the existence of man from the surface of the earth. This era is also known as the era of the bubonic plague, referred to then as the Black Death, pestilence, or the Great Mortality, where almost a quarter of Europe and Asia's population was wiped out by the plagues. About this time, too, incidents of witchcraft influence and manifestations were rampant. So whenever things went wrong, people decided that they just had to look for an outlet. That outlet, unfortunately, was witches. But prior to all these, the witchcraft in the Elizabethan age was a well-acknowledged religion. There were two groups of witches, the good, also known as white witches, and the bad witches, also referred to as the black witches. Now, these white witches were capable of healing people of their ailments through the use of herbs. This knowledge was thus passed down from one generation to the next, so that the knowledge still remained among the family of witches. The black witches were generally seen as those who used their knowledge to inflict harm on people, animals, and properties. At this time, people accused of being witches were usually the unprotected, dirty, and filthy women, the poor women, and finally, the widows. Some were even outrightly accused of killing their husbands. Witchcraft was looked on favorably in England until the Elizabethan age. During her era, Queen Elizabeth I passed a law known as the 1562 Elizabethan Witchcraft Act, which, though was stricter in its measures, did not outrightly dissuade the performing of sorcery. Witches who were found guilty of murdering other people were hanged instead of burnt like their colleagues in the Spanish and French countries. Because of the act passed by Queen Elizabeth did not include sorcery as heresy, there was no part for religion in it. But as the witch hunts began in many parts of Europe during the Renaissance era, the distinction between black and white witches disappeared totally. Women with knowledge of herbs became referred to as evil too. So all witches were just seen as witches. Out of the total number of trials which were carried out in Chelmsford, Essex in 1580 and above, 13% were witchcraft trials. In total, 64 people, mostly women, were accused of witchcraft, with only 13 acquitted and proven innocent. The remaining 53 were found guilty on charges of using their powers to afflict people with pain and the spread of heresy. One of the first witches who were convicted, Elizabeth Frances, was known to have pleaded guilty to the offense that she gave a cat, which was called Saffin, to the duo of mother and daughter, Agnes and Joan Waterhouse. The mother, Agnes, was executed by hanging, while her daughter was acquitted of all charges. The witch Elizabeth Frances was given a sentence of 1 year in prison. Other witches were accused were Joan Prentice, Alice Chandler, Joan Cunney, Ellen Smythe, and Joan Upney.
Now, the grandfather of many religions, including Wicca and witchcraft, is paganism. Not a lot of people know that. In simplest terms, paganism is a religion of place or a native religion. For example, the Native American religion is pagan, and Hinduism is a form of paganism. All pagan religions are characterized by a connection and reverence for nature and are usually polytheistic or to have many gods and or goddesses. Modern paganism as practiced in the West is particularly to the native peoples of the West, and although there are many forms, most are descended from Celtic origins. Modern paganism or neo-paganism has the following characteristics. Paganism is a religion of nature. In other words, pagans revere nature. Pagans see the divine as immanent in the whole of life and the universe. in every tree, plant, animal, and object, man and woman, and in the dark side of life as much as in the light. Pagans live their lives attuned to the cycles of nature, the seasons, life, and death. Unlike patriarchal religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, the divine is female as well as male, and therefore there is a goddess as well as a god. These deities are within us as well as without us, immanent. They are us. They are not simply substitutes for the Muslim or Judeo-Christian God. This is because the gods of the major religions tend to be supernatural, that is, above nature, whereas pagan deities are natural, symbolizing aspects of nature or human nature. Having said that, God and goddesses are split from the Great Spirit, or Akashka, which probably equates to the god of the patriarchal religions. The goddess represents all that is female, and the god represents all that is male. But because nature is seen as female, the goddess has a wider meaning. Often called Mother Earth, or Gaia, she is seen as the creator and sustainer of life, the mother of us all, which makes all the creatures on the planet our siblings. There are subgroups of named gods and goddesses called pantheons, drawn from the distant past. For example, Isis and Osiris from Egypt, or Thor, Idun, Freya, and all from Norse religion and mythology. Ancient pagans would have worshipped one or a small number of god and goddesses, whilst often recognizing the validity of other people's deities. The concept of an overall unnamed goddess and god, the sum totals of all the others, appears to be a recent one, but individual named deities represent particular human qualities or archetypes and often used as focus for celebrations and spiritual rites. Paganism has developed alongside mankind for thousands of years. As cultures have changed, so has paganism. Yet it is grounded in deep-rooted genetic memories that go back to Neolithic times and before. Thus, paganism is not just a nature religion, but a natural religion. Paganism in the West takes a number of forms, including Wicca, Druidism, and shamanism. To pagans, the four ancient elements, earth, air, fire, and water, have special significance. The importance of these is hard to define because they have so many correspondents. For example, they're associated with the four directions, north, east, south, and west. Each element is a kind of spiritual substance from which all things are made, especially ourselves, and at the same time are guardians both of ourselves and of the goddess and god, and guarding the gateways between this world and the other world. Many pagans believe in reincarnation in some form. It gives pagans a substantially different view of life. Early Christians saw karma as a kind of treadmill, trapping people in endless reincarnations. They're never free. But pagans see reincarnation as, at best, a chance to improve or to continue unfinished work, and at worst, just a simple recycling of souls.
Okay. Well, now that we've discussed the history and the differences between Wicca, witchcraft, and paganism, let's tackle those questions that you mentioned at the beginning of the show. Let's set the record straight. Some of these questions are really, really outrageous to me, but for some people out there, they may still not understand and have not been given the correct information.
All right, let's start with the first one. If I become a witch, will I be able to do all the cool stuff you see in movies and on TV? This one is just completely ridiculous. No, you can't do all the stuff that you see on TV. That's not witchcraft. That's special effects.
I completely agree with you on that one, Anthony. Let's go to the next one. Is Wicca a cult? No. A cult is defined as a great devotion to a person, place, idea, or thing. Such devotion is regarded as a literary or intellectual fad. Further explanation of cults is defined as typically cult leaders maintain power by claiming that they are the only authority to which members are accountable, by specifying precise rules for members' behaviors and proper attitudes, by controlling communication among members, and by punishing members for any rule breaking. The group's ideology justifies the leader's authority and facilitates the leaders inducing followers to tolerate their own exploitation. Cults work through manipulation. Witchcraft and Wicca work on free will. Since there are no set leaders in the Wiccan and pagan religions, it cannot be defined as a cult. People are often drawn to the Wiccan pagan religions because there are no standard set of rules, other than the threefold law and the harm none law, and individuality is one of its prized doctrines. Wicca, or paganism, revels in the will of the individual, and therefore has nothing in common with the definition of cults.
You go, girl. All right,
I'm
next
a little
myth.
passionate about those.
Yeah, I know. I see that. All right, the next myth, question. Do witches worship the devil? A lot of people I know have that question or that doubt, or that stereotype, I would call it. And the answer is no. Satan or the devil has absolutely no place in Wicca or witchcraft. The worship of Satan is the practicing of profaning Christian symbolism and is thus a Christian heresy rather than a pagan religion. The goddess and god of the witches are in no way connected to satanic practices. Satan or the devil is a Christian creation, and they are more than welcome to keep him according to the Wiccan belief.
I am so offended by that myth. There is no place. No, there's no place for the devil or Satan in witchcraft. And I really wish that they would stop associating everything that they see on TV and in the media and making judgments on things that they don't know anything about. Witchcraft to me is actually much kinder, and it's it's more peaceful than most of the modern day acceptable religions that we all have now.
All right, okay, relax. What's the next question?
Why do witches use a satanic symbol if they don't worship Satan?
We actually just had this debate on our Facebook page a few days ago. So go ahead, Lucy. Explain away.
Okay. The symbol is not the satanic symbol. The pentagram is defined as an upright star with no circle, and a pentacle is an upright star encircled. Both represent the four elements of fire, air, earth, and water, and the spirit, or soul. Now, when a pentagram is upright, it represents the spirit being placed above things on the earthly plane. The circle represents the unity of all five. Devil worshippers reverse the pentagram because they feel the flesh is above the spirit.
That's right. All right, so the last question, are witches anti-Christian? Well, not necessarily. Witchcraft overall is very tolerant of other religious views and does not engage itself in criticizing the beliefs of other people, providing that their beliefs do not violate the basic tenet of harm none law. Witches do object to religions that attempt to suppress the religious beliefs of others, or every human's right to seek spirituality in their own way. This is why there is a slight rub between Wiccans, pagans, witches, and some Christians. Many of them feel they have exclusive rights to the divine. I mean that's like in almost all religions. Witches also have a strong disdain for those who use religion as an excuse to commit mass genocide. Sound familiar? The Burning Times are a clear historical example of one religious group attempting to exert its philosophies and beliefs upon others using extreme measures. Perhaps an oversimplified way of describing our view is this, or this is the sort of Wiccan view. Imagine a beautiful meadow in the forest, and there are many paths leading to this meadow. It really does not matter which path you take to get there. The important thing is that you get there without harming anyone or anything along the way.
Okay. Anthony, before we go any further, I really want to just make sure that people understand the truth about witchcraft and witches. And if we don't fully explain it tonight, there are so many good sites that are on the Internet. I mean, there's a ton of them where you can go and you can get education and you can learn. And fear comes from not knowing about things. A really good site is www.witchvox.com, and that's WITCHVOX.com. We're asking you to review all that the site has to offer. You will really learn a lot, and you may change your mind about witches if you haven't already done so.
Good advice, Lucy. Now, I know the Wiccan belief is near and dear to your heart, so why don't you go ahead and tell us about the 13 principles of the Wiccan belief?
I would be very happy to. Okay, so the 13 principles of the Wiccan belief are basically guidelines for witches to follow. They're more like common sense aspirations. And the 13 principles of Wiccan belief are that we practice rites to attune ourselves to the natural rhythm of life forces marked by the phases of the moon and the seasonal quarters and cross quarters. We recognize that our intelligence gives us a unique responsibility towards our environment. We seek to live in harmony with nature and ecological balance, offering fulfillment to life and consciousness within an evolutionary concept. We acknowledge a depth of power far greater than apparent to the average person. Because it is far greater than ordinary, it is sometimes called supernatural, but we see it as lying within that which is naturally potential to all. We conceive of the creative power in the universe as manifesting through polarity, as masculine and feminine, and that this same creative power lies within all people and functions through the interaction of the masculine and feminine. We value neither above the other, knowing each to be supported of each other. We value sex as a pleasure of the symbol and embodiment of life, and as one of the sources of energy used in magical practice and religious worship. We recognize both outer worlds and inner, or psychological worlds, sometimes known as the spiritual world, the collective unconsciousness, the inner planes. And we see in the interaction of these two dimensions the basis for paranormal phenomena and magical exercises. We neglect either dimension for the other, seeing both as necessary for our fulfillment. We do not recognize any authoritarian hierarchy, but do honor those who teach, respect those who share their greater knowledge and wisdom, and acknowledge those who have courageously given of themselves in leadership. We seek religion, magic, and wisdom in living as being united in one way views the world and lives within it. A worldview and philosophy of life which we identify as witchcraft, the Wiccan way. Calling oneself witch does not make you a witch, but neither does heredity itself, nor the collecting of titles, degrees, and initiations. A witch seeks to control the forces within her or himself that make life possible in order to live wisely and without harm to others and in harmony with nature. We believe in the affirmation and fulfillment of life, in a continuation of evolution and development of consciousness, giving meaning to the universe as we know and our personal role within it. Our only animosity towards Christianity or towards any other religion or philosophy of life is to the extent that its institutions have claimed to be the only way and have sought to deny freedom to others and to suppress other ways of religious practice and belief. As American witches, we are not threatened by debates on the history of the craft, the origins of various terms, the legitimacy of various aspects of different traditions. We are concerned with our present and our future. We do not accept the concept of absolute evil, nor do we worship any entity known as Satan or the devil as defined by Christian tradition. We do not seek power through the suffering of others, nor accept that personal belief can be derived only by denial to another. Finally, we believe that we should seek within nature that which is contributory to our health and well-being.
Now, there are many beliefs among individual Wiccans that they differ upon. Just like with any religion, interpretations are within oneself, so naturally this is the same with Wicca. And later on, Lucy, if you don't mind, I just wanted to preface this. Later on in the show, we may be pissing off some people, if I may say that, Lucy.
Yes, you may.
So keep listening, you guys out there, because we've got an interesting take on the Catholic Christian religion and a similarity to the Wicca religion. So anyway, I want to get on to the individual Wiccans that they differ upon. So monotheism, some Wiccans believe that a single creative force exists in the universe, which is sometimes called the one or the all. Little can be known of this force. Other Wiccans, typically feminists, worship the goddess by herself. Bitheism or duotheism, many regard the goddess and the god as representing the female and male aspects of the all. These deities are not out there somewhere. They are immanent in the world. Others regard the god and goddess as two separate deities representing the male and female principles. Polytheism. Many regard the thousands of ancient pagan god and goddesses, Athena, Bridget, Diana, Fergus, Odin, Pan, Zeus, and all, as representing various aspects of the god and goddesses. The term Wicca normally implies that the person's religion is based upon Celtic spiritual concepts, its pantheon of deities, and seasonal days of celebration. Other neo-pagans include deities, beliefs, practices, and symbols from ancient pagan religions, such as Egyptian, Greek, various mystery religions, Roman, Sumerian, or upon Aboriginal religions, Native American spirituality, and shamanism. Pantheism. Some Wiccans believe that the universe is divine and should be revered. Pantheism identifies the universe with God, but denies any personality or transcendence of such a God. Agnosticism. Some Wiccans are actually agnostics, who take no position on the existence of a supreme being or beings. They often look upon the goddess and the god as archetypes or based on myth. Strong atheism. Some Wiccans are strong atheists and maintain that no deity exists. They often view the god and goddesses as concepts or principles, not as living entities. It must be stressed that Wiccans have no supernatural being in their pantheon or deities who resembles the quasi-deity Satan found in Christianity and Islam. This belief was quite common among conservatives of their faiths. It is now fading since so many Wiccans have come out of the closet, so to speak, and gone public with their faith. Respect for nature. Wicca is a natural religion, grounded in concern for the earth. Some Wiccans believe that all living things, including the stars, the planets, humans, animals, plants, rocks, have a spirit of some type. Many Wiccan rituals deal with bringing harmony and healing to nature. The vast majority of Wiccans share a great concern for their environment. Gender equality. Wiccans celebrate the sexual polarity of nature. For example, the fertilizing rain is one manifestation of the male principle. The nurturing earth symbolizes the female. Females are respected as equal, and sometimes at a slighter, higher rank to males. In a coven, a local group of Wiccans, a priestess is often the most senior person. They aim for a female-male balance in most of their covens or local groups, although men are typically in the minority. Human sexuality. Sexuality is valued and regarded as a gift of the goddess and god, to be engaged in with joy and responsibility and without manipulation or coercion. Wiccans generally accept the findings of human sexuality researchers that there are three normal, natural, and unchosen sexual orientations, which are heterosexuality, homosexuality, and bisexuality. Some Wiccans celebrate the Great Rite, which involves ritual sexual intercourse. However, it is consensually performed by a loving, committed couple in private. The afterlife. Wiccans have a wide range of beliefs about life after death. Some believe in ancient Celtic legends of a summerland where souls go after death. Here they meet with others who have gone before, review and integrate their previous lives on Earth, and are eventually reincarnated into the body of a newborn. Some believe that after many such cycles, perhaps some as females and others as males, some lives with a high standard of living and others in poverty, some in positions of power and others suffering oppression. That the individual accumulates sufficient experience to go on to another level of existence about which we know nothing. Some see an individual's consciousness, personality, memory, abilities, talents as functions of the human brain which degrades and disintegrates at death. They do not anticipate any form of personal continuity after death. Other Wiccans anticipate continuity after death in some very narrow senses, that the molecules that go to make up our bodies may in turn be incorporated in other living entities, that our influences on children, friends, and society in general will continue to have an impact on the next generations, even as our influence on each descendant fades in importance with each successive generation. It is spread among a continually increasing number of individuals, and so the effect of our lives remains constant over time.
Okay. Now, I know we're focusing mainly on Wicca tonight, but it's because of the oneness with nature and the connection to spirituality that links both my Native American history and my true beliefs in this world. So I can't talk about Wicca without explaining the threefold law. And basically, this is the natural law of cause and effect. The goddess charges us to exercise great care in all that we as witches do and say and even think. The threefold law takes the notion, what we reap, we will sow, and it takes it a few steps further. In fact, 3 steps further. For what we do for good or for ill shall be returned to us threefold. In light of this fact, witches are loath to cause any harm, lest it be returned to them in spades. The threefold law, also known as the law of return, it states that all good that a person does to another returns threefold in this life. Harm is also returned threefold. This belief strongly motivates each Wiccan to avoid attempting to dominate, manipulate, control, or harm another person. The Wiccan Rede. Now, this is the prime Wiccan ethical teaching. One form is, ain't it harm none, do what thou wilt. In modern English, this may be rendered, as long as it doesn't harm anyone, including yourself and future generations, do whatever you want to. Now, this has been criticized for being too permissive. However, the Rede is actually quite demanding because it requires a Wiccan to carefully evaluate all of the effects that each of their decisions have on themselves, on other people, and on future generations, including the environment, etc. With harm to none, so mote it be, it is done.
Okay, so we're getting into the good part now. What are spells? Spells are magical formulae designed to bring about specific results. Many of the discoveries of science are attributable to magical activities like alchemy, astrology, and herbalism. The word spell comes from Old English spell, meaning a saying or fable, which is in turn derived from prehistoric Germanic. Thus, these sayings, the incantations of sorcerers, came to mean magical formulae exclusively. What sorts of spells are there? There is not any one sort of spell. Spells can range from simple incantations to complex magical rituals. Abracadabra, Abraxas, and Hocus Pocus are well-known examples of verbal spells. A spell can be anything from a prayer to a heartfelt wish. Spells can also be amulets, talismans, voodoo dolls, sigils, wagas, fetishes, mojos, potions, phylacteries, powders, and the like. In fact, a spell can take any form. What can spells be used for? Spells can be used for any purpose: to find and attract love, to bind lovers, to enhance and simulate love, to maximize sex appeal, to beautify, to heal, cure, and make whole, to bring money, success, and riches, to bring luck and good fortune, to curse, cause harm, and destroy. This is taken from the free guide to spells and magic. Here is what 2 well-known Wiccans say about spells. Quote, in our experience and countless others, spells are not superstition. They are an effective method of achieving legitimate aims. End of quote. They recount many examples of successful spell casting, from finding work to finding love. You, too, could find the same success through spells. Imagine if you could make all of those things you've wished for come true. Are spells dangerous? Some people are frightened of spells and those who cast them, but spells are a normal and natural part of our culture. You've probably already cast one or two without even knowing it. Ever throw a coin in a wishing well or pray to a saint? Then you've been working magic.
Okay, here we go. Anthony, did you know that the changing of the body and blood of Christ in a Catholic Church Mass can actually be considered by definition to be a spell?
Oh, here we go. We're going to open up Pandora's box now. All right, let's start to piss some people off and get into this. Here's what I found on this subject, okay? Ready, everybody? Religious magic is universal across all faiths, regardless of whether they acknowledge it as magic or not. The Catholic Mass is a classic example of ceremonial high magic that calls on the divine power of deity to intervene and shape the course perceptions of reality. The classic definition of magic in order to transform wafers and wine into the body and blood of Christ. Another example is a consecration ritual where a witch calls down to the power of the gods to bless themselves and their tools, transforming a regular goblet into a chalice, a fancy stick into a wand. What makes these forms of spell work the same thing as prayer is that they call on the direct assistance and or intervention of a deity, or they involve communing with deity on some level. But I would venture to guess that the form of prayer most commonly practiced is non-religious in nature. It does not directly involve the action of intervention of deity. When you use your own energies to influence and shape your own reality, that is magic, that is power, and that is what non-practitioners don't understand and hence what they fear. If deity is involved, and the deity is kind, loving, and benevolent, the caring Father God, the nurturing Mother Goddess, like most modern pagans claim, then like any other good parent, they will give their children what they need, if not necessarily what they want. Plus, judging by popular experience, most people agree that the majority of prayers asking for changes in the fabric of reality go unanswered. So if Jesus rarely answers their prayers, they can rest comforted that the moon goddess will rarely answer mine, making witchcraft a magic no more reliable than Sunday morning prayer. It's a natural assurance that we are all in the same boat when it comes to being powerless to actually direct the course of our own lives. That all we can do, that all we can do is muddle through with whatever life throws at us, because God is actually in charge of our lives, not us. Prayer, even in the form of religious magic, is asking deity to intervene on our behalf. It implies that only people who believe in deity can work magic. If there is no deity to pray to, then prayer and religious magic are nothing more than mental masturbation. Secular or non-religious spell work does not involve asking for the intervention of deity on our behalf. Spell work is deliberately and precisely gathering the ambient energies around us, raising or concentrating our own personal energies, maybe combining those energies together with the energies of crystals, herbs, candles, and directing it into the universe in order to achieve a specific change in reality, ours or someone else's. Spell work is taking charge of our lives directly and personally. It is the ultimate expression of personal responsibility. It is not necessarily discounting the existence of the divine. It's saying to the universe that I am the captain of my own life. My successes and failures are my own. The difference between religious magic and prayer and spell work is asking, Lord, help me do well on this interview so I can get this job, versus charging a quartz crystal for strength, confidence, and eloquence and wearing a blue tie. Blue enhances communication skills. Or a yellow shirt, which is sort of stimulating intellect and to draw success. In this case, you're using your own energies and combined with the energy of the crystal and the vibrational energies of specific colors to help influence the outcome of the interview without relying on the external intervention of God or Goddess. Did I piss people off?
Okay. Well, the Lord didn't strike us down, so maybe he didn't hear us.
Although I lost my voice in the middle of that, so maybe he cut my vocal cords.
Well, okay, so now the Pope won't bless our show. Okay, so what? We can't please everybody.
No.
Okay, so what would our show be without discussing one of the most horrific and horrible periods in time, the Salem witch trials? The Salem witch trials occurred in colonial Massachusetts between 1692 and 1693. More than 200 people were accused of practicing witchcraft, the devil's magic, and 20 were executed. Eventually, the colony admitted that the trials were a mistake and compensated the families of those convicted. But since then, the story of the trials has become more synonymous with paranoia and injustice, and it continues to beguile the popular imagination more than 300 years later. Several centuries ago, many practicing Christians and those of other religions had a strong belief that the devil could give certain people, known as witches, the power to harm others in return for their loyalty. A witchcraft craze rippled through Europe from the 1300s to the end of the 1600s. Tens of thousands of supposed witches, mostly women, were executed. Though the Salem trials came on just as the European craze was winding down, local circumstances explain their onset. In 1689, English rulers William and Mary started a war with France in the American colonies. Known as King William's War to the Colonists, it ravaged regions of upstate New York, Nova Scotia, and Quebec, sending refugees into the county of Essex and specifically Salem Village in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Salem Village is present-day Danvers, Massachusetts. Colonial Salem town became now Salem. The displaced people created a strain on Salem's resources. This aggravated the existing rivalry between families with ties to the wealth of the port of Salem and those who still depended on agriculture. Controversy also brewed over Reverend Samuel Parris, who became Salem Village's first ordained minister, and in 1689 and was disliked because of his rigid ways and greedy nature. The Puritan villagers believed that all the quarreling was the work of the devil. In January of 1692, Reverend Parris's daughter, Elizabeth, who was 9 at the time, and his niece, Abigail Williams, who was 11, started having fits. They screamed, they threw things, they uttered peculiar sounds, and contorted themselves into strange positions. And a local doctor blamed the supernatural, of course. Another girl, Ann Putnam, who was 11, experienced similar episodes. On February 29th, under pressure from the magistrates John Corwin and John Hawthorne, the girls blamed three women for afflicting them: Tituba, the Parris' Caribbean slave; Sarah Good, a homeless beggar; and Sarah Osborne, an elderly, impoverished woman. All 3 women were brought before the local magistrates and interrogated for several days, starting on March 1st, 1692. Osborne claimed innocence, as did Good, but Tituba confessed, "The devil came to me and bid me serve him." She described elaborate images of black dogs, red cats, yellow birds, and a black man who wanted her to sign his book. She admitted that she signed the book and said that there were several other witches looking to destroy the Puritans. All 3 women were put in jail. With the seed of paranoia planted, the stream of accusations followed for the next few months. Charges against Martha Corey, a loyal member of the church in Salem Village, greatly concerned the community. If she could be a witch, then anyone could. Magistrates even questioned Sarah Good's 4-year-old daughter, Dorothy, and her timid answers were construed as a confession. The questioning got more serious in April when Deputy Governor Thomas Danforth and his assistants attended the hearings. Dozens of people from Salem and other Massachusetts villages were brought in for questionings. On May 27, 1692, Governor William Phips ordered the establishment of a special court of oyer to hear and to terminer to decide for Suffolk, Essex, and Middlesex counties. The first case brought to the special court was Bridget Bishop, an older woman known for her gossipy habits and promiscuity. When asked if she committed witchcraft, Bishop responded, "I am as innocent as the child unborn." The defense must not have been convincing because she was found guilty, and on June 10th, she became the first person hanged on now what was later called Gallows Hill. 5 days later, respected minister Cotton Mather wrote a letter imploring to the court not to allow spectral evidence, testimony about dreams and visions. The court largely ignored this request, and 5 people were sentenced and hanged in July, 5 more in August, and 8 in September. On October 3rd, following in his son's footsteps, Increase Mather, then president of Harvard, denounced the use of spectral evidence. It were better that 10 suspected witches should escape than 1 innocent person be condemned. Governor Phipps, in response to Mather's plea, and his own wife being questioned for witchcraft, prohibited further arrest, released many of the accused witches, and dissolved the court of Oyer and Terminer, and only condemned 3 out of the 56 defendants. Phipps eventually pardoned all who were in prison on witchcraft charges by May 1693, but the damage had been done. 19 were hanged on Gallows Hill. A 70-year-old man had been pressed to death with heavy stones, and several people died in jail, and nearly 200 people overall had been accused of practicing the devil's magic. Now, even though it's 2012, did you realize that the persecutions are still happening today? A teenage boy was killed by his own sister and her partner on Christmas Day, 2010, because they believed he was involved in witchcraft. 15-year-old Christy Bamu was found by police after they had been called to a flat in London. Christy had been accused by his sister of practicing witchcraft. As a result, he was assaulted, denied food, drink, and sleep over a 4 to 5 day period leading up to Christmas Day in 2010. Christy received 130 internal and external injuries from a variety of implements, which included a hammer, an iron bar, floor ties, and a lump of wood, before finally being forced into a bathtub full of water where, so weak from his injuries, he drowned. A doctor on the scene found that a number of his teeth were broken. One was lodged in his throat as they tried to resuscitate him. A post-mortem examination found evidence of drowning and blunt and sharp force trauma to his head, his body, and his limbs. Christy had suffered a series of brutal assaults over days leading up to the day he died. Christy's 2 brothers and 2 sisters were with him at the time, and they were also accused of being witches. 2 of them, Kelly, who was 20 at the time, and her 11-year-old sister, were subjected to various assaults in addition to being deprived of food and drink for a number of days.
This may be a weird question to ask at this point now that you've just gone through that. So have you asked yourself yet, do I want to be a witch? The first thing that the seeker should know is that much of the knowledge that we possess today about witchcraft and its origins is a combination of archaeological data, the myths and legends that have been passed down, and some historical documents that have been translated. The rest is conjecture and the quote-unquote best guesses of scholars who are working on bringing it all together. In other words, no one can say for certain what the ancestors really did or why. That does not mean that we have no knowledge. We certainly do. Just that we do not have the historical knowledge of the origins of the modern craft. Different interpretations will continue to abound both in written materials and in any teachings that you may encounter. There will never be only one way of practicing witchcraft. Get used to it. No one has the one true answer, and any teacher worth his or her salt will tell you this up front. You should approach it with an open mind, ready to question and probe and ponder, like anything else. It can help you to formulate your own ideas about what this path may mean to you. Do not try to incorporate all that you need into one cohesive whole at the beginning. Look at whatever material that you're reading as a quote-unquote theory or a hypothesis of witchcraft. Some things will appeal to you right away. Others will seem off the wall or too fantastic to be of use. Accept or reject nothing at this stage. Just keep on gathering information. You're doing the research. The more you read, the more of a coming together of certain aspects will begin to form within yourself. Then you will have a foundation from which you can take the next step.
Okay, here are some do's and don'ts before venturing out to become a full-fledged witch. Do. Read as many books on the subject as you can, on history, myths, poetry, psychology, and science, as well as books on witchcraft or magic. Do. Make yourself a research library. Take notes or highlight passages that particularly interest you. If you do have a question on what is written, place a question mark next to that passage. You should enjoy what you read at this stage. The enjoyment will actually help you to retain what you read better than struggling through dusty tomes on alchemy, unless you happen to love alchemy. Do start a journal. You can even call it a book of shadows if you want. It can just be a loose leaf notebook. These are handy for creating different sections. Write down both the things that you have found to be of interest and the things that you would like to know more about. Do look at nature. Witchcraft and most other pagan paths are called earth or nature-based religions. What is nature saying to you? Bring home rocks, sticks, leaves, other things that you find that attract your attention. Now ask yourself, why did you bring that home? Write it down. Do get organized. Concentration is an important skill in magic. Disciplining yourself to make regular entries into a journal and writing things down will help you develop concentration. Do learn to ask specific questions of other witches or pagans when you need help. And ask yourself some questions too. What do I think witchcraft is? What do I find here that has meaning for me? Do tell the truth. Can seasoned witches tell if someone's full of it? Yes, they can, and rather quickly. Be honest about what you know and what you don't know. Do spend time alone to think carefully about how you feel and what you want for yourself. Some people think that at the onset that witchcraft will allow them to change other people or circumstances. But you are the one who changes as you explore this path. What do you really want? Don't take it too fast. You have not made any commitments yet. You're doing research into a subject that interests you on a personal level. Jumping into a group situation at this point may hinder your development more than help it. You need to find out where you are, where you're going, before you hit the trail with someone else. Don't get discouraged. Sometimes it's very difficult to go it alone, but the craft is made up of many individuals who bring something of value to the path, excuse me, as well as receive benefits from it. Many old-timers have the grandpa attitude. You know, when I was your age, I had to walk 3 miles to school every day. It was in the snow with no boots, carrying my little sister and a load of firewood. Well, in a way, that was true. It was much harder to be a witch only a few decades ago. So be forgiving if they are not ready to hand you all their gathered firewood on a silver platter. You may have to walk a mile or two by yourself, in the snow and with no boots. Don't ask about joining a terrace-based coven just yet. A coven is a close-knit group working together. It is a difficult process to create an effective magical unit. Most covens are not actively looking for new members, and each time as a new person is added to the group, it takes time for the unit to readjust. There are some cyber-based covens that readily accept new members. If you look at it as a training exercise, you could learn a few things. Ask around the internet. Don't be afraid because you're not part of a group. Many witches find out that after much trial and error, they actually prefer to work alone. Traditionally, the witch was a loner, and many still are by choice. Often solitary witches can get together to talk and exchange information and then happily go back to their solitary practice. You can do a little bit of both.
That was great, Lucy. We don't have any callers in the queue, and I'm shocked because this week, seriously, because this week when we had been posting on our Facebook, we got a lot of responses back. Folks who were of the Wiccan religion, were diehard witches. They wanted their voices to be heard, and they were posting on the page, and really good arguments and really good debates that were going on. But I guess they don't want to. Nobody wants to voice. I mean, I was hoping to get at least somebody, even on both sides. Folks who fear it or don't believe it, or just afraid of the whole idea of witchcraft and Wiccan and paganism. But sadly, we actually were supposed to have a guest, and Lucy, maybe you want to talk about that.
Well, we had sent out some emails, and we reached out to a few people to see if they would, be willing to come on the show and talk. And unfortunately, it looks like that we were unable to do that. And, part of me, I do understand, because there's so much prejudice and there's so much negative around the term witch, and there's so much that's unknown. It's really hard for some people to talk about it, and I totally respect and I understand that. And not to say that, oh wow, they didn't call. I could never ever say that. All I know is that I'm happy that we've, that we've talked about it, and if you want to talk about it, you can always reach out, to me on Facebook, and let's talk about it. I mean, it's something that I think that people need to talk about and people need to learn about, and it's just a different religion, and people always fear what they don't know about, and the only way to get rid of fear is to learn.
Well, I'm glad we did the show. Not too long ago, I always had the thought that witches and witchcraft were these evil spells, and you sort of get brainwashed from watching the movies and reading the books, and the way that this religion is portrayed in the media is much like the paranormal field in general. It's sort of that negative feeling, and it's portrayed in a negative way that instills that fear in folks, and it's difficult for people to understand. And I never really understood the whole witchcraft field itself and the religion itself. Not too long ago, and especially doing this research now on the topic tonight, I mean, it really opened up my eyes, and I'm glad we did the show, and hopefully folks out there who sort of have the view that I did, maybe put another thought in their head to think otherwise, or at least think that, maybe it isn't what I thought it was. At least, if anything, if one person has that thought in their head right now listening to this, that, I'm happy that we did the show. I'm glad that we were able to get out the facts, the true information to what Wicca and witchcraft and paganism is all about. We mentioned earlier, all religions basically came from paganism. All religions, almost all of them, came from there. And so Wicca and the practicing of witchcraft is just another form of religion. It's just like Christianity. It's just like Judaism and Hinduism and shamanism. It's just like those other religions. And so to hear the stories of, the Salem witch trials and everything, and, every religion has had their past and their hard history. It's just another one for the books, but it's still revered that way, unlike other religions that you hear about in the world. So I don't know about you, and I'm sure you have a stronger view than I do, Lucy, but I'm glad we did the show.
I'm very happy we did this show. I had a wonderful time talking about this, and like I said before, if anyone has a question, feel free to hit me up on Facebook. let's talk about it. I mean, I'm still a student. I'm still learning. Let's learn together. So right now, I think, how about we move into some news?
All right, why don't you hit the news? Go ahead. You do your article first.
Okay. Let's see. My story is from empowerednews.net, and this was actually from today, March, what is today? March 16th. And
16th.
It is Whitney Houston's ghost is talking to her daughter. Whitney Houston's daughter, Bobby Christina, said on Sunday that she's still hearing her mom talk and encouraging her to keep moving, keep going. Bobby Christina said, I can hear her voice, her presence, talking to me, telling me, keep moving, baby. I'm right here. I got you. She's always with me. I can always feel her. And this is what Bobby Christina had told Oprah Winfrey. She said that I can feel her pass through me all the time. Now, Bobby Christina's 19, and she's the only daughter of the late pop icon Whitney Houston and singer Bobby Brown. And she feels that her mom's spirit is actually in the house that they shared in Atlanta. She said the lights turn on and off, and she'll say, Mom, what are you doing? She said that she can still laugh with her. She can sit in there, and she can talk with her. Now, Whitney was only 48 years old when she died, and she enjoyed her popularity since she started her career in the 1980s. Everybody knows her most popular song was I Will Always Love You, and that song actually hit number one in the charts in 1992 and lingers on. Her equally popular movie, The Bodyguard, it was on the soundtrack. Later on, Whitney's life was plagued by an unstable marriage to Brown, and alongside there was heavy usage of cocaine, marijuana, alcohol, and prescription pills. And I just want to say, my heart goes out to Bobby Christina. It couldn't have been easy growing up with Whitney and Bobby Brown. And if you've ever seen that show on VH1, oh my God, this poor kid.
God. I was actually looking on YouTube the other night, and I found some videos of folks who were, I think they were using the spirit box or Ouija board or something, and they were trying to conjure up Whitney Houston. I don't know.
Oh, no.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's too soon or not, but I just the way that they were doing it was hysterical to me, and videotaping it. I don't know. All right, so my story comes from extraterrestrialaliens.com, and it's dated March 12th. That's actually a pretty interesting story, and it's titled Ancient City of Giant Discovered Off Coast of Georgia. There's a huge walled city that was found off the coast of Georgia near Sapelo Island and thought to be older than the Egyptian pyramids of Giza. According to ancient American Indian legends, the walled city was the home of giants with hair-like red flames. The red-haired giants were feared across the south and southwestern United States of what was known as tribal lands. According to the legends, the city was destroyed by the falling moon. Archaeologists discovered something amazing underwater around 6 hours off Georgia's coast. It was the legendary walled city, which was famous to many Native American tribes. It is called the Sapelo Shell Ring Complex, which is considered to be older than many Egyptian ancient structures. The city is believed to be 4,400 years old or even older. The city is believed to be constructed in a dry land before it was covered with sea. It can be theorized that the city was built during one of the last smaller ice ages before the Great Flood. The city is said to be existed during the period when giant ruled in many places of the world. The ordinary people at the time were only between 5 feet and 4 feet tall, called as Homo sapiens. Based on the Native American stories, ancient tools, and recovered skeletons, the giants were as tall as 12 feet, and the women would reach 9 feet and above. The Sapelo Shell Ring Complex challenges the beliefs that North America was populated by primitive natives who did not have knowledge in agriculture and only existed as hunter-gatherers. The ancient city that was discovered has remains of dwellings and stairs that enough to accommodate men twice as tall as most men in present day. The giants dominated the plant 3 decades after the collapse of the European Bronze Age. There were ongoing wars after the collapse, and giants dominated the planet and treated inferior humans as useless and sometimes cattle. According to myth, some clans of giants were cannibalistic, and they enjoyed eating roasted long pig. There were tales that giants offered human flesh during these feasts. Is there any possibility that those giants are also ancient aliens or extraterrestrials?
Hey, Anthony?
Yeah.
Those giants went on to win the Super Bowl, didn't they?
Yes, they did. They broke through that wall and won the Super Bowl. All right, so here is where we promote and highlight fellow paranormal investigators from around the world. We've already mentioned groups from the West Coast, East Coast, and from Canada. So why hasn't your group been mentioned on our show? What are you waiting for? Just send us an email at paranormalreviewradio@yahoo.com with my promo in the subject line. Be sure to include your group's name, all the names of your members, and any interesting facts about your group or any of your investigations. We love giving back to the paranormal community. I can't stress that enough. We love giving back to the paranormal community and hope that this helps get your group and your mission out in the public for everyone to notice. Okay, so tonight we have two groups to promote. The first group is Elk Grove Paranormal Investigations, or EGPI. Their website is elkgroveparanormalinvestigations.com. That's ELKGROV, paranormalinvestigations.com. Their phone number is listed as 916-849-5092. Their group members are Judy, and again, forgive me for desecrating everybody's name, so I'm hoping to do my best right now. Judy Raderchak is the owner and videographer. Regina Tellez is the co-owner, electrical specialist. Chris Raderchak is the technical advisor. Felicia Liba is the photographer, and Ann Olson is the EVP specialist. Honorary investigators are Renee Martin, psychic, Belinda Bentley, a psychic, Nikki Warner, medium, Stephanie Belson, a medium also, Karen Stanley, photographer. They are members of the Elk Grove Historical Society, and they have been on My Ghost Story, which is pretty cool. You can watch on their website, which is what they consider to be their best investigative case thus far. They have worked with HPI family members and many other outside groups.
Our last group of the night is Research in Paranormal Phenomena. We received an email from Matthew Dean, who is the founder of RIP, R-I-P-P. Now, what is interesting about this group, and what I found particularly great, is that they are made up of mostly active duty military. Isn't that amazing? I mean, I think that's so awesome. And they do cases on base, which is Camp Pendleton, and off base in surrounding areas. The group members are Matthew Dean, Angie, Chris, Court, Nick R., Robert Chappell, Tracy, and James. Their website is www.rippinvestigations.webs.com. That's rippinvestigations.webs.com. Go and show some love for our military men and women. I can't say enough about them. I mean, I'm just so proud of them. And last but not least, we come to the point of the show where we announce who the fan of the week is. You ready, Anthony?
Go ahead.
Okay, this week's fan of the week.
Oh, wait. I don't.
What?
Wait. I don't see this person in chat.
Oh no.
Okay. All right.
Well, we're going to have to send her a message. Our fan of the week is Tara Normal. And some of you may know Tara. She is the host of the what's it?
V103. V103.net.
And it's the Abnormal Paranormal Show, which is heard on Saturdays, and it is an awesome show. And she's got a chat room going during the show. So if you're not doing anything on a Saturday afternoon, please go to V103.net and give Tara a listen on Saturday. So I think that's it for this Friday, March 16th. Now, tomorrow is St. Patty's Day, so go out and have fun, but be responsible, you little leprechauns. I want to thank everyone out there for listening, and thank you, Anthony, for another great show. You do magic every week because you help me put this together.
I do the spells, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember that you can go to our Facebook page, Paranormal Review Radio, and continue tonight's conversation. Or if you have a personal question, please feel free to email us at paranormalreviewradio@yahoo.com. Mark your calendars, though, for next Friday, March 23rd. You don't want to miss this next show. We actually recorded the show last night and interviewed Mark and Debbie Constantino. It was
we actually have some time right now, so why don't we give them a little bit of a teaser, because and if I may just say right now, we had given Mark and Debbie Constantino a call last night and conducted the interview, and we prefaced this with them by saying it'll only be about 30 or 45 minutes. And what started out thinking that it was only going to be a 30, 45 minute actually ended up being a 2-hour interview. Go ahead, Lucy. Go ahead.
Mark and Debbie, I don't. If any of you have ever been lucky enough to investigate with them, or if you've been lucky enough to go to one of their con-cons, or to actually just hear them speak, they are so amazing. They're fun. They are They definitely have their own personalities, and they one of the most entertaining aspects of this couple is that they bicker. Oh my God, it's so funny. I mean, just to listen to them, it's like you get an insight into what they're really like, and it is amazing. First off, I think they're the best in the business. I think they're awesome. I mean, I literally was nervous talking to these people because I admire them so much. But 2 hours worth, I mean, they gave us some stuff that we're going to share with you that was amazing. And some of the stuff that they talked about, Anthony and I were lucky enough to actually be there with them when it happened. So I think it's going to be an awesome show. I mean, I was interviewing them, and I was totally enthralled. I mean, it was just so great. And Anthony, I think you feel the same way. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, they gave a lot of information, a lot of good information for folks who are interested in the paranormal and investigating, to distinguish between real EVPs and fake EVPs, how to conduct them, what they do. They told us so many stories, so many things to avoid that they admitted that they do and still do, but they told us to avoid it. And they shared with us what their most popular place to investigate is. And I think it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say and to sort of learn from someone who's real, someone who's down to earth. Yes, they've been on television. Yes, they've been all over the place, and they're, quote-unquote experts. They claim, quote-unquote, they don't even like to name themselves as experts. But they are down to earth and real, and very real. And you're going to hear it next week, the real interview that we've had. I can give you a little bit of a teaser. I honestly thought that they were going to get a divorce in the middle of our interview. It'll be hysterical.
What? It was truly an eye-opening experience talking with them. We have some EVPs that they shared with us from their private collection.
Right.
We talked about them, and we're going to share all of these with you. These EVPs are amazing, and some of them are a little bit creepy. So we can't wait to discuss the EVPs next week, and we hope that all of you will join us. So until then, please have a good night, everybody, and have a paranormal week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review